on here.
You're good.
Good evening and welcome to the Board of Zoning Appeals regular meeting for October 14, 2020. The time is 6 p.m. May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Althoff?
Present.
Mr. Archibald?
Here.
Mr. Porter?
Here.
Ms. Rogers?
Here.
Mr. Butler?
Yes. So since everybody's here, so there's no absent, so we don't need to make that call. So approval of agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second,
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So all those opposed? None. Now, we have this reorganization of that board. The Glenn, he used to be chair and I was vice, and he moved on to council. And now we have to select chair and vice chair. So may I have the nomination.
I move Mr. Butler for chair.
Any second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Oh, you got to close nominations.
Yeah.
You have to close nominations.
Nomination close. Any
So is there anybody else who's interested in running for chair? Do we have any other motions?
I am interested. I don't think I can nominate myself, though, right?
I'll nominate. What's your name again? Okay.
Dan Archibald.
Yes. Okay.
I nominate Dan Archibald.
So,
I second that.
So now you need a motion to close nominations if there's no other motions to be made.
so if there's no other motion, so we close the nomination process. So now we have vote for Mr. Bartla.
Right, I would do it by raise of hand.
Yeah. Mr. Althoff,
Sure, yes.
Mr. Archibald,
No, sir.
Mr. Porter,
Vote for Mr. Archibald.
Mr. Roger. Mr.
No pressure.
Mr. Roger.
Vote for either one at this point, or are we just going around for you, Mr. Patel?
Okay, so,
So my vote is for Mr. Archibald.
okay, so that amounts to
It's 2-1.
2,
2-1. Mr. Archibald has 2 votes. Butler has 1 vote.
what I have, okay.
And we haven't voted yet, right? Okay. So I vote,
So you're going to vote for yourself.
I vote for myself.
All right. So we have, do we have then, are we going to have voting on it or just,
So that is the votes.
so 2 to 1?
So then now we need a motion to appoint Mr. Archibald as the chair.
Okay. So, the motion is 2 to 1, right?
Motion is technically 3-2 now.
3 to 1.
Correct.
So Mr. Archibald is a chairperson,
Well,
Right.
I think you have to submit or ask for a motion to appoint the new chair.
so, okay. Do we have a motion to appoint Chair Mr. Archibald?
Yes, I move to appoint Mr. Archibald chair.
Then second?
I'll second that.
Okay. May I have the, may I have this, those who are in favor of?
Aye.
Okay. So motion passed, and Mr. Archibald is chairperson. Now we have a motion for vice chair. May I have the nomination?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Bottler.
Any second?
I'll second that.
Motion closed.
Any other nominations?
Any other nomination?
Okay.
So,
So now you just need a motion
Yeah.
to appoint Mr. Botla as chair.
I move to appoint Mr. Bottler as chair of, or vice chair of the BZA.
yeah, second. So may I have those in favor of?
Aye.
Aye.
So motion passed, and Mr. Bartla is vice chair.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. I think I'm on.
Yes.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you for serving as
Thank you.
chairman while you,
Temporarily, yeah.
for a short period of time. And thank you all for your confidence in me being able to do this. Do we have any other minutes? Oh, that's right, minutes. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so we have two sets of minutes that we need to approve. Do we have any discussion on any of the January 8th regular meeting minutes? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the January 8th regular meeting minutes.
Can we move to approve both sets of minutes at once?
So one at a time.
I would do them separately because you do have a member who was not here for the January.
Right.
I don't think I was either.
No, you weren't.
There you go.
But you were a board member, or you, yeah.
Yes.
I second it.
Yep. Motion
Okay.
to approve. the minutes.
Okay, show of hands, all in favor? Any opposition? Any abstentions? Okay, all right, so moved. Any discussion about the September 8th working group minutes? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the September 9th working session minutes.
I move the motion.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Seeing none, well, those are both approved. Okay, our first public hearing tonight
This
is V 20-2, Charles Brackenhoff, 2823 Maginn Drive.
This is case number V 20-2 on an application filed by Charles Brackenhoff, 2823 Maginn Drive, Beavercreek, Ohio, 45434. The applicant requests a variance from Chapter 158-104A of the City of Beavercreek zoning code, requesting permission to construct a shed that would encroach into the 10-foot required side yard setback in an R1A district. The property is located on the south side of Maginn Drive, 6 lots east of the intersection of Maginn Drive and Ash Ridge Drive. The property is further described as Book 6, page 15, parcel 171 on the Greene County Property Tax Atlas.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Gilwell. Okay, the applicant is here, I take it?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Please come up, introduce yourself. There's a little card on the podium there. You can read that card and tell us why you're here.
Okay, first of all, I wear hearing aids, and unfortunately they're Bluetooth, and I left my cell phone at home.
Okay.
So I do ask you to speak up just a little bit so I can hear you. If not, my wife back there will be my interpreter.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I
So-
apologize. So I never leave the house without it, so I don't know how I did that.
Not a problem. We will adapt.
I appreciate that.
So
Is the mask up or down?
down.
Yeah.
Down, okay.
So there's a card on the podium that you can read to tell us who you are, where you live?
Sure. I, Charles R. Brackenoff, and reside at, we just moved there a year ago, and I
Yeah,
still
yeah.
can't remember where I
28,
live.
Maginn
Yeah.
Drive.
823 28
2823 Maginn Drive, Beavercreek, Ohio, 45434. I affirm that the testimony that I'm about to give before this Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Beavercreek is the whole truth to the best of my knowledge.
Okay. Tell us why you're here.
Okay, we moved into this house. We lived in Beavercreek Township for 20-some years over on Beaver Valley Road, and as you can see there's a picture of the house. It's a spec home. We bought it almost a year ago now. It's located on a very steep road getting up to it, which you had to walk up the other day. It's very steep all the way around. So anyway, it's a 3-car garage, and unfortunately with today's, as I put into my package, they're really not 3-car garages. You have 8 inches on each side. It's not very deep because I have a staircase that goes up because it's so steep. So I can only put 2 cars, so I'm lucky, in there. I have built shelves up that go up literally 12 feet, try to get stuff up. But I have lawnmower because it's a big yard, and attachments, stuff like that, and I need to put somewhere. So what I would plan on doing was, back in June, I called, because we weren't allowed to come here, to find out what the zoning was. And I found out that time from the zoning group that it was a 10-foot easement on the back and the front. And so I said, okay, and I asked about the appeals process. At the time, you were shut down. And so I said, well, so we just talked on the phone back and forth trying to get information. And it came clear to me that where I wanted to put it, I need a variance, and that I was told on the phone that the board would then look at other areas of my property. If they could find a suitable location, that's pretty much they wouldn't approve the zoning appeal. So based on that information, I got in touch with the builders of the shed, Beachy Barn, and I had already decided what I wanted, but I hadn't really decided. So I went out and I actually measured where the fence would be, which you saw the fence was up there now, and then 10 feet where that would put it. And it would literally, as you can look at the package and the pictures, it brought it right to the edge. And when you stand there for about the week after we had it there, I kept thinking the thing was going to slide down the hill. It just, perception-wise, it's up. The yard slopes right to the left, very steep. And so by the time they put it up there, it just was overbearing. It truly was. The neighbors are really nice. They didn't complain about it, but it was, to me, an eyesore for that type of area. We couldn't put, we looked at putting trees, bushes in the front of it, trying to do it. As you can see in the pictures, unfortunately, there's electrical lines, and then there's cable lines and other lines that are right in front of it all the way along to the property line. I don't know why they did that, but that's just what it is. So I had limitations on that. So I cleared out as much as I could, and I had them deliver the shed. They brought the shed in, we put it up. You can see the pictures that I have in my application. You can start to see the drop down, how steep it is. So by the time they got it up there, I started looking at it from the aesthetic, how it looked to myself and my neighbors. The neighbor behind me had just moved from California. He wasn't that concerned about it because he has a pile of wood in front of it, so he said it didn't really make a difference. But the other individuals around there, I know that just talking to them, it's not probably the most ideal place to put something like that. So I called Beachy Barnes up and asked them to come and get it. So I got some money back, not a lot, and so I decided to go through the process of actually doing the appeal process. So when I looked at the land, the only thing I have, because I've cleared that whole backside out. If you look at the pictures facing to the back, everything to the right, all that shrubbery and all that, that's what that was last year at this time. So I've cleared everything out, put a fence in. The only place that is literally flat is that one to the right. It's impeded by, that's the smallest area between the fence area now in the front, and then I have existing trees there too. So between the existing trees, the downhill slope, the only flat area in the land, and the whole yard literally was that area. So I de-scoped the shed down from 10 to 12 feet, from 12 to 16. Originally it was 12 by 16, so I went down a little bit. And when we started playing around with measured, looking at and everything, we came up with that the minimum that I would need would be 4 feet from the fence, which is on my property line, and from the side of the side back lot. The 4 feet is what I call minimum. The reason I say it's a minimum because what I learned watching them bring the shed up the first time, they use big wheels, something called a mule that pulls it up. And if they can't get it right next to the tree that I wanted to, it's going to have to come out further. If they can't get it, you know, wherever it is, so there's a chance that it's going to be more than 4 feet from the back and the side, but I won't know that till they actually bring it up there. Because actually, once they bring it up there, they have these big wheels on, they have to unjack it and take the wheels off. And if that tree's in the way, I have a problem. So that's why we came up with the minimum of 4 foot variance. So that gives me just a little bit of room to play with it, but the minimum I would need would be the 4 foot to get it where I need it and to keep it away from the electrical lines and be able to put some shrubbery around the front of it. That foot to 2 feet before you get to the actual electrical line is what we're looking at. So that's what I did. So I put the package together. I tried to explain everything that went on, showed you pictures, visual representation of the yard. I know you were out there the other night when I was doing some other yard work. He needs some oxygen sometimes to walk that high up. But anyway, so that's what we're at right now, is based on all these variables, everything I put into here. The staff was very gracious to sit down and explain to me. I made one mistake real quick, and they allowed me to change out that page. But they were really nice to explain the whole system, how it works, and what I needed to do. And I do appreciate you meeting during this weird time we're in to look at my application. So basically, I'm looking for a 6 foot variance. So I'd be a 4 foot on the back and 4 feet on the side as a minimum. And that would get me, like I said, between those 2 trees, the back and the hill going down.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Good presentation, and don't go anywhere. We may have some, no, I mean, you can go ahead and sit down. You can sit down, but if we have some questions, other questions, we'll bring you back up.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pereira, what does staff have to say?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Before you is an application requesting approval of variance to allow for the construction of an accessory structure that would encroach into the rear and side yards, both by 6 feet. So the property under discussion is located at 2823 Maginn Drive, which is within Section 23 of Terra Falls, and the property currently has a zoning designation of R1A, one family residential. So Section 158-104A of the City of Beavercreek Zoning Code outlines the requirements for accessory structures, and it does state that in no event any detached accessory structure shall be located nearer than 10 feet from any side and rear property line. So what the applicant is proposing today is to construct a 10-foot wide by 12-foot deep shed at the rear of his property that would be located 4 feet from the rear property line and 4 feet from that side property line. So as the applicant explained in his justification, he came to us in June, kind of when we were closed down, and we went over the regulations and what he could and couldn't do, and he applied for and did receive approval of a zoning permit for a location that falls within the requirements of our zoning code. After he had the shed installed, he came back to us and you know, we talked at length about his options, and you know, he showed me the pictures and explained some of the issues that he was having with the property, and the primary issue, I think the biggest issue on the site, is the slope of the property. So if you just have a look here, this is was included in his packet. This is from the back of the property. You can see that there is an extensive slope from the back of the house up to the shed. This was after the shed was installed on the property, and you can see that it is kind of teetering right at the kind of the apex of that slope. It not only did it kind of give the appearance of the shed being significantly taller than it actually was, but then it also doesn't allow, because of the, let me move here, he has the utility lines painted in there. Because of the utility lines, he wasn't able to install shrubbery to kind of screen the structure below that keeps it level. And then also, when you're talking about storing your lawn equipment, you obviously need a ramp to be able to get up and down into the shed. And because of the utility lines, the cable and DP&L lines going through there, he wasn't able to install a ramp either. So as the applicant stated, he had the shed removed at his expense, came back to us, which we appreciated, came back to us to talk about his options, and that's when we more seriously talked about pursuing a variance for this. Based on everything that he's presented in his packet and everything that he's talked about tonight and the items that we've talked about as well, staff does feel that this variance request is justified, and we are recommending approval of that with the condition attached in the resolution. And I will be available to answer any questions following the public hearing.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Gilal, do we have any written input?
Yes, we did have one email that was sent. The Board of Zoning Appeals members, each of you got a copy of that as well. It was from Ajit Roy, who lives at 2832 Maginn Drive, and he said that he did not have any objection to it as long as it did not deviate too much from the existing zoning code requirements.
Okay. Thank you. Public input, right? This is an opportunity for anybody from the public to get up and speak on this matter, but seeing no one, I'd like to close public input, and we'll open it up for board input. So let's start to my right, Mr. Althoff.
Other than the email from Mr. Roy, is there any evidence of any kind that there'd be a substantial detriment to the adjoining properties? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, then let's jump over to Mr. Porter.
I'm looking for what was the recommendations that you had on
The
there?
conditions.
The conditions, I'm sorry.
Accessory structure zoning.
Yeah, there's just the one condition that they make sure that they come in and get a zoning permit
Okay.
before they install the new shed.
Okay. So that was the only condition?
Yeah, that was the only condition.
Okay. That's all I had. I just wanted to verify what
So
that was.
us saying yes would enable you to grant that permit?
Correct,
I see,
yes.
but the permit still needs to happen?
Yes, the permit
Okay.
still needs to happen.
Got it,
Yep.
thank you.
There's no need for another permit, right? Just that's the only permit they applied for.
So he applied for a permit the first time around
Right.
and then took down that shed. So he does need to apply for a new permit to allow it to be in this location,
Right.
yes. Yes.
Ms. Rogers.
Don't really have any questions at this time, but my only comment would be I appreciate the due diligence that the applicant provided in trying to follow the guidelines and our zoning laws on doing the first shed go-around and doing his best at that, and then coming in with the changes that were needed. So I appreciate that very much.
As do we.
And Vice Chair Butler.
Well, first of all, really appreciate. I happened to see the site. It can open up my eyes pretty hilly. And so, and they really work very hard to find the place, and they provided all the document with the picture and everything. So they really had a very sincere motive to do the right thing. But because of that location, it was not possible. So I have no problem with this 4 feet as opposed to 10 feet. And so I have to really appreciate the applicant for doing all those hard work and then coming with some solution. Thank you.
Thank you. I only have one comment. Actually, I have a couple of comments. One is I'd like to just share a personal thing because I have a shed that's right next to a tree also, and and you just have to keep an eye on the roots because otherwise your shed starts to. But I just would like to comment on how I believe this is a perfect example of how the city and the citizenry work together to resolve an issue. I'm sorry that your first shed didn't work out, but you guys came up with a solution, and it's admirable. A lot of times, oftentimes things like this get contentious. Doesn't sound like this was contentious at all. And Ms. Pereira, to you and the rest of the staff, congratulations on working well with Mr. Brackenhoff. Mr. Brackenhoff, good luck to you. And I don't have any other further comments. Any seconds? All right, then I can entertain a motion for V20-2.
A motion to approve?
I second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second, and Ms. Gillow, will you call a roll, please?
Mr. Porter,
Approved?
Ms. Rogers,
Approved.
Mr. Altoff, Mr. Botla,
Approve.
Mr. Archibald.
Approved. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Your zoning variance has been granted. Anything else for the good of the order?
Nope.
Okay. In that case, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
I second.
All in favor?
Yes, I,
Any opposition? Seeing none, we are adjourned.
the short meeting.